how do we learn to talk? I mean, really think about it. It's one of the most complex things we ever do, but for a little kid, it just happens. For a long time, one really powerful theory had a deceptively simple answer to that question. And it all starts with this, a really fundamental question. Do we show up in the world with nothing, and our experiences just write everything we know onto that slate? Or is there something already there when we arrive? Well, for a huge chunk of the 20th century, a massively influential theory said, yep, totally blank. And this idea didn't just stay in a lab. It completely changed how language was taught. That is, until a revolutionary new idea came along and just blew a massive hole right through it, changing how we see the human mind forever. Okay, so our story really kicks off with the psychologist B.F. Skinner and his, well, pretty radical idea. He looked at language and said, you know what? This isn't some deep, mysterious mental process. He argued it was just another behavior, learned in the exact same way a rat learns to press a lever for food. The key to what he called radical behaviorism is what it just throws right out the window. Things like thoughts, feelings, the whole concept of meaning. Skinner said, nope. If you can't directly observe it and measure it, it's not scientific. The only thing that mattered was how the world around us shapes what we do. So what does it mean to know English, according to Skinner? It's not about having some kind of mental dictionary or a grammar book inside your head. Not at all. It's simply about being trained, conditioned to respond the right way in certain situations. It's all just a big set of habits. And this right here is the engine that builds all those habits, operant conditioning. The process is actually super simple. A little kid sees milk. That's a stimulus. They make a sound, maybe ma or milk. That's the response. Then they get the milk. That's the reinforcement, the reward. And that reward makes it way more likely they'll say milk next time. Skinner argued that every single word, every sentence we ever learn is built exactly like this. Now, this wasn't just some dusty academic theory. Skinner's ideas were seen as a huge scientific breakthrough for education. People thought, finally, a reliable, systematic way to teach. And for a good while there, these ideas completely took over and reshaped how language was taught in schools all across the world. To make this work, Skinner broke language down into these functional little pieces he called verbal operants. The key thing here is that it's not about nouns or verbs. It's all about what the word does. A mand is a demand, controlled by a want. A tact makes contact with the world, like labeling a car. An echoic is just imitation, and an intraverbal is a conversational response, like filling in a blank. To him, this was the whole toolkit. And man, this toolkit became incredibly popular. You can really see its rise to power here. It got a big boost during World War II for rapidly training soldiers. By the 1950s, the education world was all in. And it all culminated in 1957, when Skinner published his huge book, Verbal Behavior, laying out the entire grand theory. The ultimate expression of this in the classroom was the audiolingual method. If you've ever been in a language class, maybe with headphones on, repeating phrases like, "Where is the library?" over and over again, you have experienced the legacy of behaviorism. The goal wasn't really deep understanding. It was about creating automatic, conditioned habits through endless drills. But just as Skinner's theory hit its absolute peak, a young linguist named Noam Chomsky published a devastating review of verbal behavior. And it wasn't just a critique, it was an intellectual bombshell that helped kickstart what we now call the cognitive revolution. Their conflict was really about the fundamental nature of the mind itself. Skinner saw a blank slate, something totally shaped by the environment. Chomsky, on the other hand, saw a mind that comes pre-wired with what he called a language acquisition device, basically an innate capacity for language. Chomsky's central argument was brilliant. He called it the poverty of the stimulus. He pointed out that the language kids actually hear is, well, it's a mess. They hear broken sentences, slips of the tongue, and just a really limited set of examples. And yet, from all that messy, incomplete input, they somehow figure out the incredibly complex rules of grammar. Chomsky argued it would be impossible to do this just through simple imitation and reward. And this really highlights a huge flaw in Skinner's logic. Our language isn't just a response to what's around us. You can be looking at a beautiful sunset and say, I really need to do my taxes. That direct link between the stimulus and the response, which was everything for Skinner, is completely broken in creative human language. Yeah, Skinner's model has no good way to explain creativity or what linguists call generativity. This question right here gets right to the heart of it. A kid can create a sentence they have never heard before, and one that has definitely never been positively reinforced. This ability to generate infinite new sentences is a hallmark of what makes our language so special. This table lays out the fundamental divide pretty clearly. For Skinner, we start with nothing, and the environment builds everything through conditioning. For Chomsky, we start with an innate blueprint, what he called universal grammar, a kind of basic structural template for all human languages, and the environment around us just triggers the right rules for our specific one. So, after Chomsky, behaviorism as a theory for how we acquire our first language was pretty much left behind. But the story doesn't end there. In a really fascinating twist, Skinner's ideas found a powerful new purpose. Yeah, what failed as this grand, all-encompassing explanation for the creative, messy reality of language turned out to be an incredibly effective technology for teaching and changing behavior in very structured, practical ways. And this is where it lives on today, in applied behavior analysis, or ABA. It's a primary therapy used to help individuals, especially those with autism, develop crucial life skills by applying the very same principles of stimulus, response, and reinforcement. Remember those verbal operants we saw earlier? Mands, tacts, echoics? Well, they're the exact tools used in ABA therapy. Therapists use these functions to systematically teach a child how to request things they want, how to label the world around them, and how to imitate sounds, all using positive reinforcement as the main strategy. So, this is really the final verdict. Behaviorism just couldn't explain the magic of human grammar and creativity. But its methods provide an unmatched blueprint for teaching functional, observable communication skills in a systematic and effective way. So it failed as a theory of everything, but it succeeded as a powerful practical tool. Which brings us right back to the beginning. The story of Skinner and Chomsky shows us the answer is probably a bit of both. Maybe we are born with the blueprint, but we still need the tools of experience and reinforcement to build the final structure. The debate continues, and it forces us to keep asking what it truly means to be a thinking, talking human.